Did you see the stylish?
Welcome to the Young IPA podcast. I'm James, this is Pete.
G'day, everyone.
It is the 31st of October, Halloween spooky episode. It is episode 133, big show for everyone coming up. We're going to be talking to social media commentator and YouTuber Topher Field. Topher's been doing, it's a bit of a different one for the Young IPA podcast. It's not something we usually do, but Topher Field has been working a lot on the Murray-Darling Basin, and some of the stuff he comes out, like he's saying on the show and saying on his videos, you're just like, how the hell is this not been the biggest story in the world for the last 6 months? It's crazy what's happening as a result of government legislation. And, again, it's a bit different. We're usually like tech and politics, but this is really important stuff.
Yep.
We're also going to be talking to Luca Rossi, friend of the show. He's been on before. As I've said, it is Halloween, so Luca Rossi, one of the people very much in the know of what woke culture is and where the lines are these days, is going to run everyone through some last-minute Halloween suggestions. Anything you're looking forward to in the show, Pete?
Member of Generation Liberty, young Luca Rossi. No, my favourite thing that I'm looking forward to is the interview with Topher. It's fantastic. It's an issue I wasn't really aware of until this week. And also, I love what you've worn for Halloween, James. You look $1 million. Oh, no, that's just normal clothes.
That's make sure we got that on camera. We're definitely recording. Cool.
All the people at home are laughing.
I'm sure they are. All right. Let's start off with the big story this week, which is the coal protests.
Exactly right. So the International Mining and Resources Conference in Melbourne has been marred by very violent protests. So not your normal Extinction Rebellion protests, which can get a bit, what would you call it?
Sorry for people listening, but we're just playing a few overlays of footage here for the people watching on YouTube, and I'm just going to occasionally go oh.
That's right.
It's pretty intense. Oh!
So it's much more...
Someone just got kneed in the head.
It's much more...
this is terrible audio.
That's all right. It's much more violent than the normal environmental protests. Obviously, the conference is about mining. Delegates attending the conference and some attending entirely unrelated events have been hassled, they've been spat on, they've been pushed, they've been knocked to the ground in some cases.
Do I love the world of accounting in the 21st century that much that I'm willing to get beaten over the head for it?
Exactly right. So they've been, and prevented from entering the building is in certain circumstances, is what's happened. Now, there've been 2 arrested from the climate protesters for cruelty to animals. So these people that care about the planet so much that they're assaulting police horses.
Yeah, they slapped a police horse. What the hell is that?
Yeah, exactly right. So terrible stuff there. 3 police officers have been hospitalised, 1 protester hospitalised, and 50 protesters arrested.
All right, so the 2 things I want to say about this, there was one, the Australian Reporter, the protesters were chanting, "We're out on strike today to challenge the elite." I got some bad news for the protesters.
Yeah.
You are the elite.
Yeah.
If you are protesting coal because you don't have to worry about what type of resource your energy comes from because you have enough money to pay the bills no matter what, you are the elite.
You are the elite, and you can't be on strike if you haven't got a job.
Yes, exactly. And that's true. And the other one is this is a global movement from Melbourne to Chile. Now, a global movement, in my view, should also have representatives from impoverished countries that are going to be affected by this. So until we get actual people from countries that are going to either have electricity or people that are actually either going to have electricity or not, depending on the coal market. Until those people start attending the protests, you're not a global movement.
Exactly right. 11 million people from Bangladesh without electricity.
Yes. Let's see what they have to say on the issue.
And obviously it's just completely disgusting to be spitting on people and pushing people over and things like that. And I'm sure they would have organised these protests using their mobile phones, which of course would not be able to be made without mining.
Oh, okay. All right, so we'll move on to the British election.
Yeah, let's do it.
I think is next. So we finally have some sort of date that people can recognise and agree upon in the Brexit debate, which is rare, and let's all just take a moment to welcome it and just be one with it. So the UK is set to go to the polls on the 12th of December. The election, Boris Johnson's been pushing it for a while now. I think he was the first leader in how many years to lose his first couple of votes, and he's finally got the election that he wants to go, that he wants. It's going to be interesting. Conservatives are favoured at the start, and I'm out on, I just think everyone should be out on polling. There's nothing anyone knows anymore.
That's true.
After Brexit, after Trump, after Scott Morrison, no one knows anything anymore.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, I was sort of thinking that as well. You know, the Conservatives are a fair way ahead in the polls, but I had forgotten my thing about polls.
Yes.
That they're not true. So thank you for reminding me.
But I thought what would be fun here, because there's not much to say on this story other than, holy crap, there's actually a date that those people could agree upon. But I thought it would be fun for you and I to do the official Young IPA podcast prediction.
Oh, no. Okay.
And yep. All right. So I've scoured the betting markets and I found value.
Unlucky. Have you found value?
I have found value. All right. How about this one, though? The Brexit Party, the over-under on how many seats they win is 0.5.
Yeah.
Like, from just the temperature of the public and how popular Brexit is in traditional Labor seats and Labor seats that aren't that... Labor sitting members that aren't that keen on Brexit, they don't win one?
Well, look, if their support is spread out throughout the country, then, that's how...
They don't win
the Westminster system
one?
works. Yeah, I don't know.
Are you in on that? As a prediction? You don't have to put your finances behind it, but as a prediction, 0.5.
I'm going to say, I'm normally an optimistic person, I'm going to say none.
You're going to say none? All right, I'm going to say at least one. Do you have any other predictions you want to make about this one?
Look, I don't know if I've got predictions, but I think I'm concerned that what if it's like, just they send the same people back and it's roughly the same setup that we've got at the
it's
moment.
like literally...
I mean, that's the most likely
motion carries. All right, so Pete, would your prediction be it's just the same?
Yeah, okay, let's make it that.
It's just the
So I'm
same.
a bit negative today.
Yeah.
Normally I'm like much more negative, you know.
Well, perk up. You know, it's a different recording time. We're doing this in the late afternoon rather than the morning.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to say perk up.
Okay. Well, I go downhill as the day goes on.
All right. The last thing we want to get into before we get into heroes and villains is the latest with the ACCC.
Well, James, you know that I know everything about the ACCC and technology, so I'll take this one.
What's it stand for without looking?
Australian Consumer and Competition.
You're looking right now.
I'm looking at ACCC.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, Australian Consumer and Competition Commission.
Well done.
I'm not 100% sure that's correct, but anyway.
Competition and Consumer Commission, but I'll pay it.
Okay, so tech giant Google
It was a good prediction that you predicted that it would be that name. Good prediction. You're 1 for 1.
Let me go here. So tech giant Google has been hauled into the federal court by the ACCC. And the ACCC has said that Google have misled consumers when it made on-screen representations about location data. So what does that mean, Peter? You are asking me, James.
Yeah.
What that means is that if you had an Android phone or tablet and you had a Google account, Google would give you this thing that if you don't want your location to be known by Google, you'd select that to be off, right? If that makes sense. But
it makes sense. It does. It's a very good privacy measure. So we thought.
What the ACCC is saying is that Google sort of implied that would do that, but there is actually another part of your phone or tablet that you would also have to change for your location not to be known. So it's a little bit dodgy by Google if what they're saying is correct.
Yes. So if I can get this straight, and this is breaking news to me, is everyone's phone spying on them?
Well, basically, yeah.
Yeah, because this is, no one is surprised by this. And if true, it's obviously quite crappy what Google is doing. But this is the debate of our time. Your phone is spying on you at all times. And when the government, I know it's just the ACCC at this point, but if the government starts saying, okay, you can't do this, or even the moves in the US that we should nationalize Facebook and stuff like that because of these privacy concerns. It's like, who do you want having your data like that? Do you want corporations or do you want the government?
Or neither.
Well, I mean, buy a flip phone if it's neither, but no one will buy the flip phone.
Yeah.
It's either corporations and, at least there's some sort of competition. But if you hand it all over to the government, then there's no competition to the government.
That's right.
I'm way more terrified. I am scared that my phone is recording me right now. I mean, I know a microphone is also recording me right now, so I really should be on board with what's being said. But my phone knows where I am at all times and knows what I'm searching. But I would rather the corporations have that than the government.
Yeah.
And run the risk that I never piss off any employee at one of these corporations that can just go through my files.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
No, you're right there. I would just point out for those who are about to throw their Androids out the window,
they're gone.
They don't do it anymore. It was been doing from
because they'll still find you. The Android will be back inside your laptop. It'll find its way back into your car.
It'll still find you, and also Google aren't doing it anymore. They only did it till the end of 2018.
Right. Yeah. So they say.
Yeah.
Because here's the other thing. So I read this the Conversation Australia article about it. It says how the fine that Google will pay, they'll make it back in 3 days. So people are saying, well, what's the point of fining Google in the first place if that's all it is? It says here, But this does not mean the ACCC's proceeding against Google are a pointless exercise. Aside from the impact on Google's reputation, these proceedings may highlight for consumers the difference between platforms which have incentives to hide data practices from consumers and other platforms, like the search engine DuckDuckGo, which offer privacy-respecting alternatives. Yeah. This is the thing. No one's going to use DuckDuckGo. Yeah. Certainly not with that name. That's the stupidest name for a search engine I've ever heard in my life. This will literally never happen. Like, you either throw out your phones and we're all back to the 1980s, or just it sucks.
Well, no. Google can be, usurped by a new way of doing things. History shows that.
My money's on Google over DuckDuckGo.
Yeah, maybe over DuckDuckGo, but maybe in 5 years there'll be
Ask Jeeves.
Maybe in 5 years there'll be a new Google,
and then they will get our data.
Yeah, well, it'll evolve over time, which is why I don't like the ACCC, because they don't understand that monopolies don't last forever.
Very good point. All right, let us move on to heroes and villains. Okay. So this is the set. I reckon these get further and further up every time I start doing the read, to the point that we'll get the grunt the pig sound effect while I'm doing the show introduction next week.
It's because he lives for it.
He lives for it. This is the highlight of his week. All right, so heroes and villains, that was a snort of freedom, the snort that we give to people that have stood up for freedom and for liberty around the world this week. So Pete, who gets a snort of freedom from your books?
Look, I'm going to say this is not an imaginative hero. It's an obvious hero, but sometimes the most heroic heroes are obvious.
Yeah.
And that is, this week, Kanye West released his new album. It's called Jesus is King. Apparently it's only 22 minutes, you told me.
Something like that. It's definitely less than 30.
So that's quite rock star. I'm not going to give you an hour. I'm going to give you 30 minutes because that's how good I am. Anyway, that's not why he's a hero. The hero is because in an interview with radio host Big Boy on Friday, West slammed cancel culture, as well as the notion that a black person must vote for someone solely based on their race. And I'll quote from that interview right now. "I've been cancelled before. That was cancelled culture. Who told you that my career would be over? The same people that told you the same people that are telling you that you can't have a right to say who you will vote for." Now, he goes on to say about how all white people have always told him that he shouldn't... Sorry to bore you, mate.
Oh, sorry. No, just had lunch.
No, that's right. Yeah. So he goes on to say that, people said, "I can't believe you voted Trump and you like Trump because, you're black and he's racist, blah, blah, blah." And he said that the most racist thing you can tell someone is that who they should vote for based on their skin color.
Yes.
So Kanye, you're my hero this week.
Yeah, it's a very good interview and good selection. I swear Kanye just does this to sell albums though. He always perks up about identity politics right when he's flogging something.
There might be a bit of a commercial aspect to it.
Yeah, and the album is good, and I know you haven't listened to it, but you should because the song...
How do you know I haven't listened to it?
Because you told me, you said apparently it's only 22 minutes, which is something that you would have found out had you listened to it.
No flaws on you, young James.
And I just want to say the lyric, "Closed on Sunday, she's my Chick-fil-A," belongs in a museum.
Okay.
As long as that album gave us that lyric, we're fine. Because that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Well, I'll look out for that.
All right, my hero for this week is...
Larry King.
Only real ones are going to get that reference, so I'm very glad we got that in there. But anyway, it is Larry King, and I don't know why he's weighing in on Australian politics. He doesn't seem to be related to a tour or a book sale or anything, but it was front page of the Australian this week that Larry King wanted his opinions known about the Right to Know campaign. And what he said first, so obviously Right to Know birthed from when the Australian Federal Police raided Anika Smethurst's home a few months ago, and he said he was astounded when he heard about that, and the quote being, "I am not a violent person, but if that had happened to me, I would have reacted with violence." Larry King is 85 years old. Now, I want this movie made. Larry King, we had the People versus Larry Flynn. I want the Australian Federal Police versus Larry King. That needs to be the shootout John Wick action hero movie that Australia needs. Anyway, so he went on to say one thing which is interesting, which is that he says Australia should have a First Amendment. Now, the First Amendment obviously protects freedom of speech in the US. Congress cannot make laws on issues of speech. Now, as we said on last week's show, Your Right to Know, there's some good aspects to it, the defamation law, stuff like that, but it's quite clear that it doesn't go far enough in our books because it's a lot of freedom of the press for journalists, but common folk must remain under speech laws.
Salt of the earth podcasters, for example.
Exactly. But if we had a First Amendment, there'd be no 18C, there'd be no religious discrimination laws, and there'd be no when the government tried to censor the media. So Larry King gets it. Australia needs a First Amendment.
Yeah.
Here's
No,
my hero for the
I
week.
think you're right, and I can't believe that you chose an American talk show host.
I
as
know.
well.
I
You
know.
hate those guys.
I hate American comedy and culture. All right, let's
So-
move on to villains of the week. So this is the Howard Peck Villainy Award for the inverse, like just people that have stood up for tyranny and for hatred. Let us go with yours, Pete.
Yeah, this is excellent. And actually, if I had have remembered it at the start of the show, I would have listed it in my highlights. Anyway, that's not that important. In March,
But it's a peek behind the curtain.
that was what was going through my head as I looked at my story. In March, we had the mysterious case of the missing graph from the Bureau of Meteorology. Young Saul's put it up on the screen. Now, for people watching on YouTube, the original graph, which disappeared in March 2019, had the year 1952 as having the highest number of very hot days of all time on the data set, and the year 2011 with the lowest number. Now, that simply disappeared down a memory hole in March without explanation from the Bureau of Meteorology. People who keep a close eye on the bomb noticed that. Now, recently, a new rectified graph, rectified in inverted commas,
Peter's doing the inverted commas hand signal for people listening.
for those listening, has appeared in another section of the website. And now this one says the year 1952 has no longer the highest number of very hot days. The old graph had 21 very hot days in 1952, while the new graph only has 16 very hot days. So 5 very hot days have disappeared. Further to that, the year 2011, which embarrassingly for climate change alarmists previously had the lowest number of very hot days,
Yep.
it now has, they've added an extra very hot day, so
Right.
it's no longer the lowest.
So what does this all mean?
It just means that, come on, where's this come from? It's
So-
a bit obvious. It's pretty obvious.
All right, I go never attribute malice when incompetence will do.
Yeah, I
and
mean, there
when
could
it's
be
like records from the 1950s get changed, I'm just like, yeah, well, maybe because people took crappy records back in the 1950s.
Oh, they just happened to find them in March.
Yeah, I get that. I get
and it's
that.
5 extra ones.
Yes,
And it was like it's specifically the one that's the very hottest and specifically the one that's the very lowest. But it could be incompetence.
Yeah, I until I see the email saying like, just get rid of those few, I'm going to assume incompetence.
Well, it's probably on WhatsApp. But
we need the ACCC.
for malice or incompetence or a combination of the two, you are
Yep.
my villain. Bomb.
All right. My villain this week, is basically just people that push for plastic bag bans. And coming in tomorrow in Victoria, the 1st of November, is a ban on lightweight plastic shopping bags. Here's the thing, though. Everyone wants to save the environment. Like, everyone loves getting around the environment.
Yeah.
But plastic bag bans do not actually work. So this is from an interview that the University of Sydney professor Rebecca Taylor gave with NPR. So people in cities with plastic bag bans use fewer plastic bags, sure, but people who need to reuse their shopping bags for other purposes, like picking up dog poop or lining trash bins, still needed bags. So what she found was that sales of garbage bags actually skyrocket after plastic grocery bags were banned. So people aren't, not using plastic, they're just using bigger versions of plastic that are harder to biodegrade.
Especially for the dog poo, because if you're going to chuck that out straight away.
Yeah, exactly. And there's no actual reason to pick up dog poo with industrial synced plastic bags. It's not that bad. So 30% of the plastic that is eliminated by plastic bag bans comes back in the form of thicker garbage bags. Now, the other part of it is if you don't want to use plastic bags and if you don't want to use the big plastic bags and you want to use paper bags instead, they're actually worse for the environment. They result in about 80 million pounds of extra paper garbage per year. And a bunch of studies have found that paper bags are actually worse for the environment. They require cutting down and processing trees, which involves lots of water, toxic chemicals, fuel, and heavy machinery. So, plastic bag bans do not work. So why do all the corporations in Australia go for them? More money.
Yeah.
So these bans are only helping Coles and Woolworths top dollar people get a bit of extra cash because they can charge you for big plastic bags.
Look, I agree, and I love the way you said at the start of that little segment, everyone loves to get around the environment.
Everyone loves to get around the
I
environment.
think that's a really good way of putting it. And now this is something I haven't told James, because, they're banning plastic bags in Victoria from Friday. I've brought in some plastic bags to be part of the set for the remainder of the show.
Sure. All right.
For those listening,
So we're about the environment until we want to do a few props.
for those listening, I've
Yep.
just beautified our table with some plastic bags
Well,
from
there
my
we go.
collection in my desk.
Okay, brilliant. Let us go to our interview with Topher Field.
Yep.
Okay, we now welcome on to the show Topher Fields, social media commentator, author of a really good article in the latest edition of the IPA Review, which I'm now holding up for the people watching on YouTube and Facebook, and it is about the Murray-Darling Basin. So in the article and in the videos that you make on the subject, you've said that government policy is causing or making much worse a severe drought in the Murray-Darling Basin, and it's completely ruining lives just on government policy alone. So do you want to talk to us about why that is?
Yeah, well, there's two halves to the Murray-Darling Basin at the moment. In the north, they're out of water. There's not really anything that anyone can do about that. There is a very severe drought. They claim that it's unprecedented. I really question that. The level of rainfall has been very low, but the duration so far has actually not been that long compared to the Millennium Drought and other droughts before. But it has certainly been a deep drought. In the northern basin, they're out of water. There's not much you can do about that. We just need it to rain up there. In the southern half of the basin, and that's from the Murrumbidgee River down the Murray River for both the New South Wales side and the Victorian side, and then into South Australia, the Murray River is overflowing, literally. That's not a turn of phrase. It is literally spilling its banks in places. We have billions upon billions of litres of water flowing down an absolutely chock-a-block full Murray River into South Australia with about 10 billion litres of water flowing out to sea. Now, that amount of water, you put 1 billion on anything and it's hard to comprehend. It's hard to actually picture what that is. Well, 1 megalitre of water is an Olympic swimming pool. 1 gigalitre of water is 1,000 Olympic swimming pools. We have 10,000 Olympic swimming pools of water, fresh irrigation water flowing out to sea every day right now in what's supposed to be an unprecedented drought.
So you have a lot of farmers who are struggling, and they can go down to the river that's not close by to them and watch the water that they need go straight out to sea.
In many cases, they literally have the river as one of their boundaries.
Right.
And they are standing on dead crops. They're selling off cattle that they can't feed because they can't grow any fodder for them. And at exactly the same time, they're looking at a river that's spilling its banks.
So why is this happening?
The detailed answer is long and complicated. So let me give you the simplified answer. Knowing that it is simplified, I'm having to gloss over a lot of the details.
I should point out, if you do want to read a whole lot about this, you've done some amazing work on your Facebook page. So go to Topher Fields' Facebook page if you want to read more about it.
And check out the IPA review.
Yes.
And thank you for the article, IPA. I really appreciate it. So the short version is that in 2007, the federal government brought in new laws where they essentially gave themselves the power to administrate water. They gave themselves $13 billion worth of taxpayers' money with which to buy up water rights. Their argument is that they only bought water from willing sellers. But of course, anyone that understands the way that markets operate, when you add a new buyer who is cashed up to the max and actually has no business case to answer for, there was no price for water from the government's point of view where it became unviable for them. For a farmer, there's a break-even point. For the government, there isn't. They came in and they bought up approximately 1/3 of all of the irrigation water in the Murray-Darling Basin. Now, can you imagine any other industry where people have invested millions upon millions of dollars, in this case into farms, but any industry, on infrastructure that relies on a specific resource to pay, in order for them to pay the loans back on that infrastructure? Then you remove 1/3 of that resource, but all of the infrastructure is still there. The loans, the debts to the bank. The farmers that sold their water were often selling out of desperation, trying to survive. They then often go on to sell the farms because it doesn't work. Selling the water wasn't enough. They go on to sell the farms. Someone else comes in, some young aspiring farmer comes in, takes out a massive bank loan to buy this beautiful property full of all this amazing irrigation infrastructure. What do they then have to do? Go on the market and buy water. The problem is there's now only 2/3 of the available water with all of those people chasing it. They've created an artificial water shortage. This is why the prices have gone absolutely through the roof. Now, it's convenient for the government to blame the market. The government says, oh, it's the water market. You can't hold us responsible for that. Well, it's not a true market when the government themselves are coming in as a $13 billion elephant in the room and paying any price for water that these other people have already built infrastructure and taken on loans on the belief that they were going to be able to use it.
Now, this is connected to, of course, the other end of the river down in South Australia. 1940s, they built barrages or something.
Yes.
Do you want to talk us through that aspect of this? Because to me, that sort of struck me as like, I can't believe this has happened.
Yeah, this is pretty nuts. If you turned around and said, I want to build some barrages across the mouth of Port Phillip Bay or the Heads in Sydney, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to build barrages across, we're going to block the seawater from coming in, and we're going to make those freshwater lakes using the water out of the Yarra River in the case of Melbourne or Parramatta River in the case of Sydney. You would never get away with that now. The environmentalists would be screaming their heads off, and with some justification. These are important marine areas where certain species are able to breed in estuarine environments that can't breed anywhere else. In the 1940s, of course, we didn't have the environmental controls that we have today. So in the 1940s, that's exactly what they did across the mouth of the lower lakes in South Australia. They built barrages, cut them off from the ocean, and turned them into freshwater lakes, relying on the flow of water from the Murray River itself. Now, that does a number of things. Well, firstly, we've got a number of species that are now endangered that weren't and shouldn't be, the Murray hardyhead being a key one. We decimated fisheries. We had a wonderful mulloway fishery down there that was producing literally millions of tonnes, or thousands of tonnes, of mulloway for human consumption. That was completely decimated by what they did. But in addition to that, what happened as a result was if the flows from the Murray River declined for any reason, and this is the land of droughts and flooding rains, we know it's not consistent, there wouldn't be enough water flowing into those lower lakes to maintain the water level. Because 800 billion litres, so let me put that's 800...
How many swimming pools?
Yeah, I'm trying to do the conversion. So it's 800 gigalitres becomes 800,000 megalitres, so 800,000 Olympic swimming pools of water evaporates off Lake Alexandrina, the lower lakes, every year. That's just evaporation. Now, that's fine if it's ocean water, but now it's fresh water that we have to keep supplying to those lakes, otherwise the water level starts to drop. That's what happened during the Millennium Drought, and this is why the Water Act of 2007 was brought in the first place, is because during the Millennium Drought, the Murray River had very little flow, was not able to replace evaporation, and what happened was the lower lakes actually dropped below sea level. Now, ordinarily, before the barrages, that wouldn't be possible. All that would happen is seawater would flow in to replace it, right? But because we'd cut it off, it dropped below sea level, exposing acid sulfate soils. And we were about to have a massive amount of acid. We were literally going to turn the lower lakes into an acid pool because of the oxygen getting to the acid sulfate soils that it had never been able to get to, because previously water would have flown in from the ocean to replace that. That was the premise for creating the Water Act of 2007 and the Murray-Darling Basin Authority in the first place. Instead of saying, oops, we made a mistake, maybe we should open the barrages up and let the seawater back in to cover that soil, instead they said, oops, we made a mistake, looks like we have to take 1/3 of all the productive water off our farmers and send that down to that pool to evaporate.
Yeah. So
that was their
that's
solution.
the source of it. That's
Yeah.
the source of it.
All right, so let's talk about the effect that this is having. Because in your video and in the review article, you mentioned job losses and even suicides from a lot of farmers. So we've got this government policy that's just coming in to protect other government policies, and farmers are suffering. So what's actually happening on the scene?
On the ground, we are seeing an absolute exodus from certain industries. The dairy industry has probably been the highest profile and the most losses. People walking away from multi-generational farms, and I'm not just talking about farmers who aren't very good at their jobs. In any industry, at any given point in time, there are people going out of business because of any one of a number of variables that happen. Even the farmers that I'm talking to who are getting run out of business, they accept that. They accept that reality. They're not thinking that they had some guaranteed success because, we're farmers, we should always be allowed to succeed. But they're sitting there saying, you know what? I watched my dad go through the Millennium Drought, and I watched how he managed the farm and what he did, and I learned from him, and I've learned even more ever since. But even doing everything that has been done in the past to survive droughts, we couldn't survive this. And to add insult to injury, as we mentioned early on, this is not actually a drought in the sense that there's no water left. They're going out of business watching this water flowing past, in many cases, the boundary of their farm. So for dairies, it's been absolutely decimating. For many croppers, it's been absolutely decimating. But then there's the second order effects. All of your townships have small businesses and contractors and so forth who depend on these farms. This is their lifeblood. When farmers make money, they then spend it. And it's been, I don't recall which study, but it's been shown that a dollar earned by a farm is typically spent about 7 times within its local area before it leaves.
Yeah, you think about like mechanics and stuff like that. People that go out to farms.
You
to
hand
help.
it to the employee goes and buys his groceries, and the person who works at the grocery store goes and gets their car serviced about 7 times. So when you're taking away literally hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue away from farms, you're taking actually 7 times that away from the communities out there and the amount of economic activity that they have. So we're seeing towns dying, and tragically we're seeing people who are just pushed to the absolute edge and make the most horrible decision. One of my siblings and one of my cousins are actually pastors at Baptist churches out in country Victoria, and both of them have had to attend suicides and had to help families pick up the pieces after what's been done. And you talk to either of them about that, and it's very hard for them to talk about it.
Yeah. All right. What I'm hearing of this is just because they're not in major cities and because farmers aren't in Canberra, there's got to be a reason that this isn't a national talking point every single day. Like, I know 60 Minutes have now covered it. I know it was featured on Q&A this week, but it's not exactly as talked about as maybe like other government policy disasters like the Pink Bat scheme.
I actually think it's having its moment now. Like,
But it's been an issue for like a fair few months.
60 Minutes on Sunday, and now it's on the Young IPA podcast.
Channel 7, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's really hit the big time. Channel 7 ran a great story where they did talk about the waste of water going out of the lower lakes into the Southern Ocean as well. It's definitely having its moment. But if you rewind back to 6 months ago, anytime you saw any media talking about the drought, it was blaming farmers for over-extraction or it was blaming climate change or some similar thing. I made that series of videos that kind of kicked off this issue certainly from my point of view, released those in May. By June, we saw the tone in the media change. Now, every piece that they did on the drought at least mentioned the Murray-Darling Basin Authority, at least mentioned the potential for mismanagement of water. And we've seen a steady progression. We've just kept on beating that drum in the months since. And it's not just me. There's an army of people working on it, some very, very clever people, each of us doing our own thing. I'm the comms guy. I'm probably the most visible out of all of us. But in reality, there's an army of people actually working incredibly hard in the background. And what you're seeing now, this issue having its moment, really is the fruit of all of the work that has been poured into this issue by a lot of people to actually get it to the point where, yes, it is now actually hitting the top of the consciousness of Australian media and Australian people.
Let's speak a second about the Q&A that was on last night, because David Littleproud got his butt handed to him, in my opinion. Talk us through what happened. And I know that you said just before that actually you had a question lined up that was meant to be asked but didn't quite make it onto the show.
Yeah.
What was that question?
Okay, so for those of you who missed the show, I'm not a regular Q&A watcher, but I made an exception in this case.
None of anyone who listens to this is a regular Q&A.
Is a regular Q&A watcher. No, it was very, very interesting, and all I'll say about David Littleproud is the pressure is really beginning to show. If I were mates with David Littleproud, I would be sitting him down for a drink and asking him if he's okay. Because I think based on his performance and based on the way that he frayed around the edges over certain issues, I think he's a man who's not 100% okay, and I don't say that to be condescending. That is something that I actually care about. Mental health has been the impact of this water shortage, this artificial water shortage. It's been devastating from a mental health point of view for farmers, and I think that David Littleproud is perhaps finding out a bit about what that feels like. To feel like he's under siege. Farmers have felt that for a very long time. I don't say that without sympathy, but I do think he's out of his depth in his job. I do think that he needs to step aside or be removed. The way that he avoids questions, he never answers anything. My reflection on his performance was that it sounded like he was just reading a script out of Utopia, the TV show Utopia. The buzzwords that he was using, the circular language that he was using, speaking of reviews and best available science, but none of these actually mean anything. None of these words mean anything. It was just classic Utopia. So that's what I'd say about his performance. The question that I had through another audience member who graciously asked me to write their question for them, and then they were informed that their question had been accepted. I asked the question, given that according to the Murray-Darling Basin Authority's own website, there are 15 billion litres of water, so 15,000 Olympic swimming pools of water crossing the South Australian border in the Murray River every day.
It's my metric now.
That's right, the swimming pool. Yep. And given that that's 3 times South Australia's allocation, okay, so it's not as though this is South Australia's water that they need. No, that's 3 times their allocation is flowing across the border every day. And at least 10 billion litres or 10,000 Olympic swimming pools is flowing out to sea every day. How can the government maintain the claim that the water in the Murray River is actually being put to good use? How can they say it's for almond growers downstream, or it's for environmental flows, or it's for these sorts of things? Can you explain what is this water actually for, and why are we sending that much out to sea, given the lack of water further upstream?
Because when this question came up on Q&A, there was like real anger in the room, and a lot of people were on board with the changes that need to be made to the Water Act to stop this tragedy. So are you hopeful for legislative change coming quickly?
This issue is going to be won by the people, not by the government, simply because for the people of Australia and for the people in country Australia, this is an existential crisis. The government have conned themselves into thinking that this is going to go away. that if they can just tough it out and get through it, then everyone will adapt and get used to the new situation and this whole thing will simmer down. They're absolutely delusional. That attitude from them is all the proof you need that they have absolutely no concept of the impact that this policy is actually having out on the ground in Australia. And they can think that for as long as they want. The anger level is just going to increase. I said when I was emceeing the protest at Tokemwell, we had over 3,000 people join us there. I said at the time, as a message to the government, I said, how far do you want us to go? You tell us, we've been polite. We've asked nicely. We've had little protests here and there. We've written submissions to various government bodies that have wanted to do reports. We've met with politicians. We've done it all nicely. At Tokemwell, I said, after this, the gloves are off. No more playing nice. It's up to you, government. How far do you want us to go? And at the moment, clearly what they're telling us is you have to go further. And so that's what we're preparing to do. Now, we've already begun to see acts of civil disobedience, and this wasn't me, and I don't know who it was, but people have begun dumping truckloads of rocks into irrigation channels that are releasing water out or wasting water out into forest areas at the moment. We've begun to see the first simmering of active, aggressive civil disobedience coming from the people of Australia against the mismanagement of their water. That is only going to increase, and it is definitely not going to go away until these policies are actually fixed. So my question for the government is, how far do you want the people of Australia to go? Because that's how far they will go.
Very interesting. So you're currently, I think, crowdfunding Blood in the Water, an upcoming campaign. Do you want to tell us about that briefly?
Yes, so there's a couple of things that I'm trying to do with a new video. So it was a series of 4 videos that I did back in May that really sort of brought this issue or begun this issue's journey into the spotlight that we see where it is today. But there's a couple of things that are still being missed. And the mainstream media, they have deadlines and column inches to fill and so forth. And you've kind of got to hand them the story and really put it in front of them. So that's what this video aims to do, is to really make the amount of water flowing out to sea central and really just put that in your face as a direct comparison. This is what's happening with freshwater in South Australia. This is what's happening on farms in New South Wales and Victoria. How can these both be happening at the same time? How can that possibly be acceptable? But then to move through that into a stage where I actually start to bring up the statements that have been made by the likes of Minister David Littleproud and Minister Susan Lee, as well as some state water ministers, where they all agree, verbally at least, that the status quo isn't working. They all say, oh yes, we're working very hard to fix this, and etc. And then they all start pointing fingers at each other. And so you've got one minister saying, well, I can't do this on my own, I need the Minister for Water. And the Minister for Water saying, well, I can't do this on my own, I need the Minister for the Environment. You say, well, how about you get in a room and fix this? You've got politicians who work and live in Canberra every day saying, oh, we can't release environmental water to farmers, legislation stops us. Well, if only we could think of somebody who could change some legislation, you know? Yeah. Like these are insulting comments, insulting to their face, to our face. But the media aren't actually picking them up on this and saying, guys, you are literally the cause of this problem and the only solution to this problem. Pull your fingers out with respect and go and fix this problem. And if you won't, then we will keep on amping up until you get brushed aside and we install somebody who will.
All right, brilliant. Topher Field, social media commentator. Make sure you're reading his article in the IPA Review, and make sure you're liking the Facebook page to keep up to date with everything else that's coming out in this story. So thank you very much for joining us on the show.
Thank you. Really
Thanks,
appreciate
mate.
it.
Okay, we now welcome back onto the show Luca Rossi, one of our favourite Generation Liberty members and friends of the show. Welcome
Thanks
back.
very much for having me back.
Back by popular demand, you might say.
Yes, indeed. So this episode, it's coming out on Halloween. Hopefully everyone out there has got their costume sorted, but if you haven't, if you're the kind of person that throws it all together on Saturday and just rocks up to one of my parties wearing a mask that he ditches within 15 seconds, Peter, does this sound familiar to anyone?
It's about time you got over that, right? That was about 5 years ago.
Then we're here to help you out. Because the last thing you want to do is cause offence with your costume. Can be quite the ordeal if you go with something that doesn't meet up with modern lines. So Pete and I thought, what are some do's and don'ts? Where are the modern lines? Where are they drawn? And we couldn't think of anyone better to talk to on this than Luca. So Luca, let's run through it. So what are the do's and don'ts of Halloween this year?
I'd like to say firstly that there's a lot of don'ts.
There's probably more don'ts than do's,
yeah,
I would say.
There's a whole list. But the main one is nothing that's culturally specific.
Okay.
Because if you wear something that's inherently racist, if it's from another culture.
Yeah, and it could even be like, say you find one culture like particularly inspirational, or you identify with one character that comes from that culture, maybe like a Dragon Ball Z character. Is that part of it? Like, if you dress up as Goku, are you in the, therefore?
These people.
Am I the only one that knows about Dragon Ball Z? This would be insane.
Goku's a
Yeah, sorry, Pete.
Yeah.
All right, okay. For Peter, is there anyone from I Love Lucy that would have?
I don't know what that is either. What about like Shane Walker? I said that like a couple of years ago.
But if you dress up as Goku, are you offending Japanese people, or are you just going, I like Goku?
Oh well, see the thing is not only are you offending Japanese people, but you're belittling everything that they've been through in the past as well. That's what you're doing, okay? So you're basically wearing something that's cultural appropriation. You're basically a colonialist,
Right.
At this point. Yeah.
Okay. So Goku,
Yeah.
that's out, and I'm gonna just draw a line through any anime characters at all. I think just
to
stay
be
well
safe.
clear.
Just
Stay
to be
well clear of
safe,
any
yeah.
Japanese culture.
Yeah.
All right. How about controversial characters from TV shows? Now, is depiction necessarily praising? So
Yeah.
if you go as, say, King Joffrey, do you only go as Joffrey, or do you go as everything that Joffrey stands for?
Yeah, you go as everything.
Do you know who Joffrey is?
I know Joffrey is, and he got what was coming, to be honest. But like, is that a thing that people say that you can't be Joffrey?
That's
Oh,
what
that's
we're
what
learning.
I got-
That's what we're
yeah,
learning the
sorry.
do's and don'ts.
If we're gonna look, just to be safe, we'll say yes, because no, you're not able to go as King Joffrey,
Right.
Okay, because you are endorsing everything that he's done. That's
Okay.
what you're doing.
He was-
Okay,
he was a
you're
seriously
saying
bad
yes.
guy.
Not only am I going to be a caricature of him, right? You're not allowed to do that. What you're actually saying is, no matter what your intentions are, what we're telling you your intentions are, is that you are endorsing everything he's about and
Yeah.
all the connotations with it.
Yeah.
Okay?
It's not up to what you intend. It
No.
is how other people read it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay, interesting. Any other do's and don'ts you want to get through? Or Pete, do you have any questions?
No. I was just going to ask, what can we wear? If there's no do's or don'ts, what is stuff we can wear?
Just don't have a Halloween party, I guess.
Yeah, just stay at home.
Yeah, stay at home.
Yeah.
Maybe go to mass.
Go to mass. I think that'd be a safe option.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be a lot of people there. You get a good seat. All right. So we've run through a few do's and don'ts. Don't culturally appropriate. Don't endorse any people that might be questionable.
Yeah.
In fact, probably look through the person you're going as Twitter history, just to make sure there aren't any.
Oh,
controversial
definitely.
tweets
Twitter
that
history,
get-
Facebook, anything.
Yeah.
Anything you can dig up,
Yeah.
if you go as them, it will be dug up against you. So just make sure you find it first.
Absolutely.
So you can't
say-
go as Justin Trudeau.
You can't go as Justin Trudeau.
Because that would be an easy one. Just put a tie on.
Yeah, but what version of
Oh,
Justin
yeah,
Trudeau?
yeah.
well, yeah, the traditional
No,
version.
but if you go as
What is the
Justin
traditional
Trudeau,
version of Justin
Just a
Trudeau?
tie and like, I'm really woke. I can pull off
kind.
Justin Trudeau. Got that
People
same sort of
kind.
dreamy demeanour, like.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's next?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, you don't want to, halfway through a party, figure out that your character had some controversial Twitter history that
Yeah.
gets brought up, and then you have to go into the bathroom and change.
Exactly
All right. So Pete and I have some costume ideas that we think could work, but again, we're just not up to date with woke culture, so
Yeah.
we just want to run them by you. Let's see if
Okay.
they hold up. So Pete, do you want to go first, or am I?
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I'll go first. But I think my concern is that once I bring this up, there's nowhere else to go for
Oh,
anyone.
okay.
But no, just kidding. Just kidding. So what I think, Luca, and hear me out, is that the clothes damage the environment. We have to.
Yes.
I don't really know how clothes are. What are they called? Manufactured now, but they're manufactured in a factory. That damages the environment.
And
Plus-
then you're not going to wear the same costume twice. Like my Halloween
Yeah.
costume last year is still somewhere in my room. I'm not quite sure where it is, but I know I
What
didn't
were
throw
you
it
last
out.
year?
Good question. What was that last year?
You could wear it again. It's
Yeah.
probably anyway.
It'll be fine.
Textile workers historically and currently at some places in the world are oppressed and don't get paid very well, and they
Right.
get used by their employers. So that's the other thing. And the other thing is that clothes are a construct put on us
That's
by
right.
society,
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
forcing us into a box.
Clothes are
That's
a social
right.
construct.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to say the only way you can go to Halloween is to go nude. Birthday suit, 100% nude, and I'm going to do that this Halloween. And
Okay.
I reckon that's going to be a brave stand.
Wow, that's quite a statement.
It'll turn heads, that's for sure. Are you sure not
I don't steal a show, really.
isn't going nude sort of just enforcing the patriarchy, just making everyone
That's a good
see you
point.
in your masculine, very
And
masculine?
white male privilege.
Yeah.
Oh,
The privilege of not having to wear clothes. Look, maybe, I don't know, that's why we're sort of talking this out. But and the other thing is, unlike those Extinction Rebellion pretenders the other week,
Yep.
who I said a couple of weeks on the show had a nudie run to save the planet, where they weren't nude.
That was 2 weeks ago. You still
I'm still on it. I want to talk about it every week. That, to me,
the
sums the whole...
protest in the coal convention down there today. You can go down and say a
go
few
check it
words.
out.
They better be nude, because it sums up the whole thing for me.
All right.
Not dinkum.
So I was actually going. For people listening, Peter's just thrown a pen on the ground.
Yeah.
in
I take
pure
a
anger.
stand.
All right. I was going to say you need if you want to go something woke, if you want to go something that doesn't cause offense and is going to make sure that everyone praises them equally.
Yep.
There's going to be no person that gets put out, person that gets left out of things. I think you just need to go as people that really unite everyone and inspire greatness and everyone loves. So I think the only costume that you can really go as is me and Pete. One goes in a white T-shirt with a print design because God knows I do love them, and then one just throws together some sort of T-shirt over a shirt that he wears all the time combo and goes unshaven for a little bit.
Different shirts, people, by the way. They're slightly different every week. I did not endorse that, by the way, listeners, but yeah.
You do endorse that.
What do you think? Would that
What do you
work?
think? Could someone go as me and Pete?
Okay, look.
Okay, here we
It-
go.
it
I don't
could-
like that lead.
Don't go through my Twitter history.
Yeah, okay. Firstly, we'd have to do a full background check.
Yeah.
Okay, full
Okay.
background check. Run it by the Extinction Rebellion guys, just in case.
Including
Just in
Facebook
case.
chats?
Everything.
Oh, dear.
Everything, okay? Get everything unencrypted, okay? We need
Right.
to make sure that you're clean.
Talk to Zuckerberg.
Secondly, even though you have no power over this, you still have a lack of melanin. So,
A lack of melanin.
yeah,
Oh,
you just...
damn it.
Yeah. Sorry, you're just locked out from the get-go.
Well,
really.
all right, that sucks because I would like to see people go as me and Pete. If you do go as me and Pete, send a photo. All right, thank you for keeping us up to date. I guess we're still looking for what a costume could be. So I was just going to say, any final pieces of advice for people going to a Halloween party? Maybe not costume focused, but maybe just in general.
Okay. Well, maybe if you don't have an idea, just wear a pumpkin over your head or something.
That's the Peter Gregory School.
Yeah,
thing.
just wear a
Put the
pumpkin
least
over your
effort
head.
in and
Yeah,
ditch it within
make sure
15
no one
seconds.
sees that you're white. Just in case. Just in
Okay.
case. Make sure no one sees that you're white. And really, if you just want to avoid the hassle, just stay home.
Okay, fair enough.
I went as a
Pete?
cricket player once, went down pretty well.
Yep.
Happen to have cricket gear in my cupboard, so very convenient.
Very convenient. Mine would be just don't go as the Joker.
Oh,
Everyone's going to go as Joker.
That's-
It's going to creep
can't.
everyone out. It's going to suggest a few things about you. Don't go as Joker. Everyone wants to. Don't do it.
I reckon do it.
You reckon do it? I
Well,
say don't do it.
Okay, no, I'm going to
But then
say
you're
don't do it.
sympathising
'cause-
with him.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And you don't know what's
Exactly.
going to happen. Anything can happen this weekend. So, yeah, no, don't go as the Joker.
All right, cool. Luca, thank you so much for keeping us up to date. And right now, we'll go to the quiz.
On your look up.
Okay, welcome to another round of Hey, What Did We Miss? I've taken Pete by surprise.
Caught me
with
by
the,
surprise.
Very quick introduction, but we've got a
right.
very fun quiz for you. I'm actually going to do introductions this week. I forgot last week. So Dr. Bella DeBrera joining us for the quiz. Dr. Bella DeBrera, welcome.
Thank you.
Daniel Wild,
Thanks,
just
James.
nods. Again,
head of-
mainly an audio podcast.
Thanks, mate.
There we go.
Appreciate
Head of
that.
research. And always, the Roof Seal, Peter Gregory.
Roof.
All right,
Get
so
around
if it is your first quiz, 1 point for correct answers, 1 point off for incorrect answers. Your buzzers will be your first name, so let's run through it. Bella
Bella.
can do that. Cool. Daniel?
Daniel.
Yep, that's clear and correct. And Pete?
Roof.
Roof for the Roof Seal. All right,
do it.
let's fly into it. Now, there is going to be a bit of a Halloween theme. I did break the news to you with seconds remaining in pre-show. And
Loves
that was,
America.
not greeted well. So this will
just
be
loves
interesting.
America.
I do. And let's go. All right. Some will be Halloween, some will not. Question 1. EU leaders have agreed to extend Brexit until what
Bella.
date?
Daniel.
Oh.
Bella was first.
January the 31st.
31st. Oof.
I think he said January 30th, though.
No,
that
I
was
said
the first one.
31st.
Yeah, she
No, I
didn't.
was
She
getting
didn't
there.
pause long enough.
Come on, jump in,
No.
Pete.
I didn't. Did
I
you?
said January the 31st.
Let's coalesce it.
30th.
Coalesce against it.
31st.
No, it sounded
I'll pay
right.
31st. All right. Question number 2. Which senator this week called for a GST overhaul?
Daniel.
Daniel.
Dean Smith.
Indeed, he did.
Oh my god.
All right. So, Bella's off to a flyer. Daniel's off to a flyer. The Roof Seal, the defending champion, yet to be heard from.
Oh, never write off a champion, James. There's still a lot of
Only
quiz
two
to
questions,
play.
right?
Are you
Two
just like
questions
embracing
in.
the Pat Hannaford school of quiz, which is just
Yeah.
leave these chumps to the regular questions and come in for the Who Am I?
There's no prizes given
You
out
feel
in
your brain
October. Doesn't make sense. Makes sense in the context of the English Premier League, nothing else.
Good. And I'm the one that gets crap for liking foreign influences. All right. Question 3. Where did Halloween begin?
As in what country?
Yeah.
Bella.
Oh,
Bella. That was the
no
softest.
confidence.
Bella.
That was the
It
softest.
began in the US of A.
It did not.
Roof.
Roof.
UK.
I am going to pay that because it's Ireland, Scotland. It's like a pagan tradition right back in Roman
Well, back
times.
down to 0.
Pretty controversial. that you
So-
just included Ireland as part of the UK, but that's all right.
Well,
We'll move on.
Northern Ireland could be wherever the Celts were, mate. All right. Question number, what are we up to? 4. What was the name of the ISIS leader that was killed
Bella.
last weekend?
Oh.
Bella.
Al-Baghdadi.
Al-Baghdadi is correct.
Does that include all the first names and?
Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi.
You just got dunked on, Pete. That is a sound.
A-B-U-B-A-K-R
That is the sound of a man getting dunked on.
I guess I'll keep quiet then.
There's a corner over there
I
if
was
you
like,
want to go
I
sit.
was like, oh, Baghdad. Like,
Not the tennis player.
Marcos Baghdad is still alive. Question number 5. In which country was he killed?
roof.
Roof.
Iraq.
Incorrect.
Oh,
Daniel.
Off to Peter. Daniel.
Syria.
Correct.
Well, it depends who you ask, doesn't it?
But ask him.
Ask the Kurds.
Yeah, I can't ask him. All right. So, quick score check. Daniel taking the lead on 2. Peter is on 0. And Bella is on 1. All right. Question whatever the hell we're up to. I forget. Today is Halloween and also the start of which holiday in Mexico?
Bella.
Bella.
Dia de los Muertos.
I'm going to assume that's Day of the Dead. My
Yes,
Spanish
sorry,
is
Day of the
rusty.
Dead.
Is it?
Yep.
Is today Halloween?
Well, the show is coming out on Thursday, Peter. So the old,
I guess it is
the old
Halloween.
concept of
I'm
time.
going to get a rough quiz. This is a rough quiz.
This is the earliest we've ever done a quiz.
this is
I feel
reality.
off. You guys feel off. We're getting there.
We
But
normally do it
thank
in
God
the other-
Dan was in a suit to bring some sort of.
Bringing it up.
Oh, well,
Bringing the standards
Bella's
up.
speaking in like 3 different
I'm sorry.
languages. And, like, she's raising the standard.
All right. Who is the front runner to take over Q&A from Tony Jones?
Daniel.
Daniel.
Hamish McDonald.
He is indeed. Don't know if he's got the smarminess, but you just build.
He is sufficiently low IQ to take it over. So
Well, I think our Q&A ban is going to keep going. So
We haven't done the Q&A clap for a while.
we have not.
We should have this discussion outside of the quiz.
Does Hamish
but-
McDonald have it in him to give us the Q&A clap?
Yeah.
Because we'd have to switch it over.
Exactly.
All right. So, another one. Ari Aster's 2019 horror film Midsommar follows characters attending a pagan festival in which country? One of my favourite films of the year. Go see it. Creepy
Which-
as hell.
Sorry, what
I'm
was the
thinking-
film?
I don't know any of those words.
Midsummer.
All right. So, Midsommar follows characters attending a pagan midsummer festival in which country?
I'm going to have a crack because I'm a long
Go.
way back.
Okay.
Yep.
Roof.
Roof.
Holland.
Incorrect.
It was the right continent though, wasn't it?
In a sense, yes. Yeah.
Ooh,
right
in a
continent,
Well,
but not same landmass.
I don't have no
I'm
idea.
going to sit
Right.
this one out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
don't wanna
it
lose a
is
point.
Sweden. Go see Midsommar. It is amazing. Go see it.
Those countries are pretty similar.
Holland and Sweden.
In a lot
They
of
both
ways.
end in.
All right. The IPA last week hosted the visit of Dr. Patrick McLaughlin from the Mercator Centre to talk to Australian politicians about regulatory data and Australia's red tape crisis. There were 2,000 regulatory restrictions in Australia in the late 1970s. How many are there now?
Daniel,
Daniel.
This is why I said of research.
do I need the exact number?
I'll give closest to
100,000.
100,000,
I've got a feeling it's 71,000.
71,000.
80,000.
Daniel gets it. It's 95,000.
If I got that
That
wrong, I
is
would have been
why-
very,
Yeah,
Yeah,
very
it would have
bad.
been
If you
pretty
got that
bad.
wrong,
Would have come
that
up in your
would've
next
been really
performance
bad.
review, which is
That's why I was trying to sledge him.
immediately after this quiz.
I didn't even know
Bit of
that was
research.
It does work.
All right. So
What are we? What are we up to, Jimmy?
we're up to the Who Am I? The last question. So
Oh,
we have
Yeah.
score check.
Yeah.
Daniel's on 4, Bella is on 2, and Peter is on -1.
I can. Oh,
So
so
how-
I can only draw.
What's this worth?
So it'll be 5 points for the first clue, then 4 points, 3 points, 2 points, 1 point.
Oh,
Had a crack at
well,
that
this is
movie
interesting.
Could Pat,
Yeah.
if you've been missing the show, Pat Hannaford is the king of being so far behind the rest of the competition
Yeah.
and then just getting the 5
So
point.
Pete needs
Who
to
am
get
I?
it right on the first crack.
He needs
Yeah.
to get this one right.
To force a tiebreaker.
On the
Force a
first crack,
tiebreaker.
though.
Yeah, I'll get it, mate. I'll get it. I
Okay,
can guess
Good luck.
now if
Yeah,
you
good
want.
luck.
All right.
Good luck.
Well,
Go.
guess right
Go.
now for 6 points. Who is it? No points off.
6 points.
No,
Who is it?
this
If I
will-
get this, you have to give it to me. So they would have died
I
this
reckon
week.
that's fair.
No.
It would have been
That's
William
This would be
Shakespeare.
amazing. No points off.
Still, I think
Jesus.
it minus 6
Jesus
points.
Christ.
Give it minus 6 points.
Tough school.
William.
He got it completely wrong.
Can you imagine, like, if just Pete just guessed the random person
Yeah.
that this is? All right.
happen.
I was born, for 5 points, I was born 264 years ago this Saturday.
Oh, well, yeah, okay. Still quite tough, really.
Just do the maths in your head. 264 years ago.
64 years ago. 264 years ago would it be...
These people are deep in thought. Daniel's pressed his entire face up against the microphone.
That's what
I
I
can't
do.
even
Just
think
trying
of
to keep
anyone.
the people listening
216 you
involved.
said.
Ba-ba,
264.
ba-ba-ba-ba-ba.
264.
Yeah. Does
I'm
anyone
just
want to
trying
make
to
a
think.
pun?
Just trying to think of a person that old.
They're,
I bet you know.
they're not still alive. They're not still alive. It's not Captain Cook.
Okay, well I'm out. Good quiz, guys. Who else is there? I'll just keep
No,
guessing.
sure.
So,
No, Pete.
wait.
Trying to think. This is good. This must be good listening.
Yeah, this is engaging.
Well, these guys aren't
Is
going to
it
guess.
someone
'cause-
like Captain Arthur Phillip?
It is not Captain Arthur Phillip. Dan, do you want to give a 5 point just to absolutely like?
So these two
Could be the
out.
biggest margin.
Are
They're
they-
We can
out
still
for this
guess, we
question.
just
They
don't-
can come
we're
back
just not
here.
getting
Are there more
Yeah.
questions?
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
another clue. It's
Yeah.
not just like on
Goes
that
five
basis.
to
Oh,
one.
so you can just have a crack and
Yeah,
just
just
like,
like anybody.
Adam
Yeah.
Smith.
Adam, not Adam
I
Smith
should've
for
said
4
Adam Smith.
points.
Yeah.
That's a good guess.
Well,
I didn't know
still-
that was.
still
I thought
would've been wrong.
you had it.
It would have been just as
It would
wrong.
have been better than Captain
It's
Cook.
just
Captain Cook was clearly.
For 4 points, I was born in Austria.
Is
Is this? Hang on. Did you say dead 264 years ago? Or
No,
born?
It's not.
Born 260 years.
264. They are dead though. No
Yeah,
spoilers, but they are dead.
I only know Austrian economists.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Nerd.
There's nothing out.
Did you know?
All right, so for 3 points, I was married to a foreign prince and became queen of a different nation in 1774.
I don't know. Bella will know. She's good with that stuff like that.
It's Marie Antoinette.
It is Marie Antoinette. Bella gets the 3, which means we have a tiebreaker. And for people that have listened to the quiz, they know I stubbornly refuse week after week to prepare for this,
Yeah.
even though it's happened like 3 of the
It
last
happens.
4 weeks.
It's a low-scoring quiz.
It is
there's
a
lot of
low-scoring quiz.
Tiebreakers.
Okay, this was a late question that I had to cut.
So how does this
Okay.
work?
So, well,
same law.
whoever gets this question right wins
Oh,
the
we
quiz.
no, well, that's pretty straightforward.
So, all right.
And I'm out.
I thought it'd be some
Peter's
obtuse.
Just.
Yeah.
All right. So,
So you're out.
which of the
So it's me and
following?
Bella.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which of the following films
Oh.
did I make up in my head?
What?
kind of
So is this
question?
like a multiple choice question?
All right. So 2 of these are going to be actual films, and one of them is going to be a fake. And the person that identifies the fake wins the quiz.
There you go.
Got it?
Yeah.
Okay. Wait till the end. Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Do we have to actually
Do we
say
have
our
to
name?
do we have to do our name, or are you just going to give us a chance to do?
I think I'll be able to discern which one's Bella and which one's Daniel.
No, but
Oh.
is it
Do they jump
first
in?
in, or is it just both
First
give
in.
us a
We'll go
chance?
first in because this might be easy. Killer Clowns from Outer Space. The
What did you
Next-
say? Say
Sorry.
again.
Which film did I make up in my
Say the
head?
words. Say the film words.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Uh-huh.
The Vegan Next Door. Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Daniel
Daniel.
C.
B.
The Vegan Next Door is the one I made up in my head. Bella wins a quiz.
Well
Well done, Bella. Snaps for Bella.
Bella, well done.
One day I
Thank
will
you.
think to actually make a tiebreaker question. It's
It
never
wasn't
gonna
as
happen.
impressive
Vegan
as Mary
next door.
Antoinette.
Was
or,
not as
saying that ISIS guy's name correctly, but it was still good.
and the Day of the Dead in perfect Spanish.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Alright.
yeah, I wasn't.
Cool.
Oh,
All right,
thanks,
well done,
everyone.
Bella.
Thank
We got
you.
more show for you after this.
See you later.
Okay, well done on the quiz again. Did you win?
I did not
forget.
win.
No,
Bella
you
de
didn't.
Barrera
Bella
won.
did win.
I
Okay,
came
we're
last
keeping
and
this
got less
in.
than 0.
Okay.
But it's good to see you've got
I
your
forgot about that.
finger on the pulse, James.
Less than 0. No wasting time. You said we're going along
That's
this show
right.
at less than 0. All right. Let us go through some stories that have made us laugh this week. And nothing made me quite laugh harder than... let me set this up. So, by now, everyone would have known the leader of ISIS, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, dead.
As Bella knows very well.
Dead, in the words of Donald Trump, died like a coward, which I like as the extra touch on that. And the obituaries are coming out, and most of the obituaries are honing in on the fact that the guy was a leader of ISIS. But Washington Post and Bloomberg Politics decided to take it in a bit of a different direction. So the Washington Post had the headline: Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, austere religious scholar at helm of Islamic State, dies at 48. Austere religious scholar.
It's really studious.
Just austere. And Bloomberg Politics, Islamic leader al-Bakr al-Baghdadi transformed himself from a little-known teacher of Quranic recitation into the self-proclaimed ruler of an entity that covered swaths of Syria and Iraq. Now, those swaths of Syria and Iraq you might know as ISIS territory. Bloomberg didn't really include that part. But yeah, swing and a miss on those two headlines. Washington Post, one of the reporters tweeted out like, "Oh, it shouldn't have been read that way, so it's we've changed the headline." It doesn't matter how it was read; like you wrote it that way. That's crazy.
How can no one look at that and go, I don't think we've quite nailed that headline?
I don't think we've nailed the fact that the guy is evil.
Yeah, I don't, it really confused me actually. Do you think that, is that just a stuff up or?
Well, so here's the thing, because the New York Times had the famous obituary on Joseph Stalin, which was Stalin rose from Tsarist oppression to transform Russia into a mighty socialist state.
Okay.
So I just like the idea that in the obituary writing community, there is a code.
Yeah.
And the code is no matter what happened, we are deifying them and we are letting them be remembered as they would have wished.
Let's find the
Like,
positives.
in life, they're yours. Like
Yeah.
they're the public's. You can say what you want, but in death, they're mine.
So you're saying-
And Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is an austere scholar in my books.
He's just lived a really good lifestyle. No, I found one as well, not in the media, but Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
Now, she said, he may have died a coward, real Donald Trump, but all living things suffer when they are blown up. Anyone who's experienced warfare, unlike yourself, would know that. War is brutal. Dogs are brave, bold, loyal, loving, and healing, which is true.
Yep.
But James,
I just like the idea that halfway through that tweet, Jamie Lee Curtis goes, "This is a little pro-Baghdadi. Better throw in the dogs are everything."
Yeah.
Just to make sure I get the retweets.
But the key thing for me was that Jamie Lee Curtis correctly identified that all things suffer when they're blown up.
Yep. Sorry, take that, biologists.
Fantastic stuff. All right.
No, so I was going to say, like about the obituary writing community. It is a fascinating community to me. So I've just written a few of obituaries that maybe, like, if I start playing around with these headlines, I can be accepted into their community because it does seem a pretty good job.
Yep.
I've got here Jeffrey Dahmer, experimental cook, dead at 34.
Okay.
I've also got Genghis Khan, diplomat and explorer, dead at 65.
Diplomat.
I mean, the man did bring nations together.
I did one, and this is not to say that this guy's as bad as any of those. Justin Trudeau, who is still alive, by
He's
the
still
way.
alive. Definitely still alive.
But he's the first person that came to mind.
Yeah.
When he does eventually die, it will be Justin Trudeau, well-liked Canadian leader who enjoyed exploring different cultures.
He did indeed. All right. That is all right. So let's move on because Pete, we've got a stat about Parliament House.
Well, you know I love nuclear power, James, and I've got a stat, as you say, about Parliament House. Parliament House emits more radiation than a nuclear power plant. Now, this was in a Minerals Council booklet distributed just this week, in between getting spat on by protesters. The Minerals Council put this one out. Now, a quote from the report, that's because of the large amount of granite and other natural stone used in its construction, Parliament House's construction. These materials naturally emit radiation through trace amounts of uranium, but there's no need to panic, James, because levels emitted are minuscule, although, ironically, likely still higher than would be acceptable at a nuclear power station. So I'd like to say, bit of shade from the Minerals Council. Bit of sass.
Look, I know that you've told me to relax, but I think this is absolutely terrifying. Because
Okay.
everyone knows exposure to radiation leaves you with superpowers. And if people are going into Parliament House every single day and getting exposed to superpower-given radiation, we're about to have a league of super legislators on our hands. Like, we need the weed legalization in Canberra to come in yesterday to, at least bring down the level of power the legislators are coming to work with every morning.
I don't think these guys have ever been described as super legislators before, James. So,
Well, they're passing a lot of red tape, and maybe it's because of the superpowers that we're unintentionally giving them every single day they rock up to work.
maybe that's part of it. Maybe the Minerals Council onto something here. I would point out that on average, Aussies are exposed to 1.5 MSV of radiation. Who knows what that is? From natural sources every year, the equivalent to 75 chest X-rays.
That's a lot of chest X-rays.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm being exposed to that every year, I want a clean bill of health, and every 3 days I want to be updated on how clean my bill of health is on my chest.
Yep.
All right, let's move on because look, one of Pete and I's favourite shows is Q&A.
Oh, it's the
We
favourite.
definitely watch it every week, and we definitely watch it to be informed and not entertained. But Tony Jones, the legend, the austere legend, if I may, of Q&A, is stepping down, and there's been a lot of talk about who's going to be next one. And Frank Kelly gets thrown out, Annabelle Crabb gets thrown out, but the leader at the moment is Hamish MacDonald. And the good news is that on this week's Q&A, as we discussed with Topher Field when they were talking about the drought, we did get a decent look at what Hamish MacDonald brings to the table. Now, Pete, I understand you've brought a clip in.
Oh, well, yeah, I've brought a clip. So, Saul, play the tape of Hamish's performance, like a little snatch of Hamish's performance from the weekend, from Monday.
Welcome to this Q&A drought special. I'm Hamish MacDonald. We've had an overwhelming response to this special with questions coming in from right across our drought-affected regions tonight.
Okay, so
Just a short clip.
Let's break that down. Look, here are the things that I look for in a Q&A host.
Yeah.
Feel free to add to this.
Okay.
I look for smarminess. I look for a condescending attitude to people that he thinks are inferior to him.
Yeah.
And I look for a good amount of crowd control.
Okay.
I like Tony Jones being able to quell a crowd when they're getting a bit too boisterous, or maybe bring them up when they're being a bit too soft.
Yeah.
Anything that you want to add to that?
Well, I think, look, I don't think that he exhibited that. That sort of sinking feeling.
It was earnest. It was very earnest.
To be honest, that was the only bit that I saw. But when I watched the opening just before, I didn't get the sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach I normally get when Q&A comes on.
Yeah, so here's the thing.
I like him.
Yeah, okay. It's interesting you bring that up because I've got another thing to say and then we're going to get to why that's important.
Okay.
Now, the Australian, when they were talking about who's going to take over from Q&A, said that Hamish McDonald is a front runner because insiders like his ability to question both politicians from both sides.
Okay.
Now, if Pete loses his sinking feeling at the start of Q&A, and if Q&A starts treating both politicians from the same side equally, no one on the centre right has anything to talk about on Q&A before. Like, everyone loves to talk about how biased Q&A is. And if this bias stops, what's left to talk about?
Exactly.
What's left to tune in for? What is left to yell about to your TV?
We need
You
this.
will miss it when it's gone.
Exactly.
Hamish McDonald cannot take over. You will miss Tony Jones sneering at you through your TV screen when he's gone.
Yeah. Well, I hadn't seen it like that. I've sort of fallen in love with this guy without
Exactly.
before, really, thinking about all the contingencies because I thought I quite like him and
Yeah.
we need that for
You
content.
need that for content. All right. Last story because I know
Oh,
we're running
I've-
long. Oh, one more.
No, that's right. Let's just keep going.
All right. What an absolute mystery of the show that will be, what Peter Gregory was going to say then. But Pete, talk to us about butt dialing.
Yeah, right. So Rudy Giuliani, personal lawyer to the President of the United States, Donald Trump, has left...
Busy day.
Has left, yeah, I mean, he's
It's a
probably
busy job.
got a fair bit on. Has left 2 unintended voicemail messages to a reporter's phone, and it's the same reporter.
Yeah.
So, which is odd. Rich Shapiro from NBC, no relation. Might be relation, not sure.
To who?
The Shapiros. Pay attention, mate.
Are you related to every Gregory?
Shapiro is a bit more uncommon than Gregory. Anyway, let's focus on the story. We're running out of time. So there were 2 voicemails, 3 minutes. The first one's 3 minutes long. One of them, he's bagging Joe Biden the whole time, the whole 3 minutes.
Yeah, so it's hard to tell if it was a voicemail, like if it was a butt dial or not.
He might have just called him. So that was the first one. And then the second one, he said we need a few 100,000.
Tough.
So who
Tough.
knows what that is on about. But the thing I liked about this was one was on the 28th of September and one was on the night of the 16th of October. So I thought when I first read it, they were going to be 2 minutes
Yeah.
apart, but they were like weeks apart.
No, it's a serial offender.
the same
And
guy.
The few 100,000 was definitely in response to money because Giuliani says the problem is we need some money. The 2 men go silent. 9 seconds pass. No word is spoken. That sounds terribly
9 seconds.
awkward. 9 seconds.
They need a lot of money.
All right, let's do a 9 second silence.
No,
we
I'm not
don't have
doing a
time,
9
But
second.
you can imagine how long that is. Then Giuliani chimes in again. We need a few 100,000.
Yeah.
I was trying to think like what would be the worst thing that Giuliani could have left on a journalist's voicemail as part of a butt dial. The one I came up with is at least they haven't found the second transcript.
Yeah.
Of the second months of law. Like imagine that. And all right, so here's a question for you that I have from this. Now,
Yeah.
what is worse? Someone telling you that you left a butt dial voicemail with them, and you don't know what it is, you don't know what was said.
Yeah.
Or second, accidentally replying all on an email.
Oh, replying all. Oh, hang on. Do I know what I've said with the reply all?
Well, you wrote the email, but you just accidentally pressed reply all.
What if
instead
it
of
was
reply.
something completely benign, like, anything?
Well-
yes, I would like a coffee, thanks.
Yeah, but then you've let 46 people just gone,
Mate,
"Bling,
yeah, but it depends what
Pete
it
wants
is.
a coffee.
Reply all has the capacity to just be an absolute nightmare, and I've heard some absolute nightmares.
Yes.
Actually, can I tell you about an experience in my life?
Yes.
I once butt dialed the ambassador of the Czech Republic from the Pyramid Hill Footy Club ball.
Wow.
And it
Did
was
you start an international incident?
Not quite. It was during the Vlakov Klaus tour of Australia run by the IPA a few
Yep.
years ago. And he said, "Is everything okay? It sounds like you're having a good time." He didn't say the second bit. He said, "Is everything okay?" And messaged him back straight away and said, "All good."
Okay.
Can't remember what his name was.
Fair. All right. I would go. So are you like on butt dialing or reply all?
I think reply all has, for some reason, capacity to be worse.
All right. But I don't like with the butt dial. I could have said anything. Could have been at any point in the night.
Yeah.
What if I was trashing them? And my phone
Yeah.
goes, call.
Oh.
What if I'm saying like that Peter Gregory is such an idiot and my phone just hears call Peter Gregory. And
Yeah.
then, this is the problem with Google tracking you.
Yeah,
They can
yeah.
hear you at all times.
The reply all's to lots of people.
Right.
That's just to one.
Yeah, but it's to the key one. All right. That is it for the show this week. Thank you again to Topher Field and to Luca Rossi. Bad luck to hear that Pete got -1 on the quiz.
Oh, well, you wouldn't have even remembered that if I hadn't
-1.
brought it up.
Yeah, I don't know why you did.
That's all right.
Just
I don't
absolutely
mind. I win
trumped
every
that one.
I win every week.
All right, and make sure you are downloading on any podcast platform. Tell your friends because we're also on YouTube and the IPA's new Facebook page. Make sure you are subscribed to the Young IPA Podcasts YouTube channel. That's where you get all of the content. And if you are listening through iTunes, make sure you leave us a 5-star review and a comment if you want to. I
Yep,
don't
and
know.
also thank you very much, Saul, for all your work.
What the hell just happened there? All right, see you guys next week.
Stay up.